Carly Fiorina has gradually become more and more extreme since becoming an allegedly viable presidential candidate. And today we get the news that she defends torture. Talking Points memo reports on this, quote, she defended the use of waterboarding under President Bush's administration, arguing that the technique kept our nation safe. She said the following, I believe that all of the evidence is very clear that waterboarding was used in a very small handful of cases and was supervised by medical personnel in every one of those cases. And I also believe that waterboarding was used when there was no other way to get information that was necessary. Now, before we continue here, let's just set the record straight. Everything she said there is false. The idea that, like, you had legit medical experts who were like, let's check his pulse. Okay, now you can go back to torturing. No, that's not true. And it's also not true that all we did was waterboarding. I love how that's been the main focus of the media for a really long time, where they pick a form of torture where people legitimately think it's still like a debatable issue. It's not a debatable issue. Waterboarding is torture. But just know that that's like the least bad of all of the different forms of torture that we did. I mean, another example, we did hypothermia torture, which is exactly what it sounds like. We threw cold water on a guy in a cell, a cold cell, left him there at night, came back in the morning, he was dead. Everybody was like, oops, we fucked up. Also, come to find out, that guy was totally innocent. In fact, over 20% of the people that we tortured, we now admit. The CIA admits, well, yeah, they were innocent. And that's just what they admit. You know, we don't know what they're keeping from us. We do know that the government is actually hiding some pictures from what happened at Gitmo from us, even with the Abu Ghraib pictures already being out there. So the only conclusion I can take away from that is what happened in Gitmo is way worse than what happened at Abu Ghraib. And what happened at Abu Ghraib was horrendous. But then there's also anal feeding, as they call it, and go talk to medical experts and see if they think that's a legit thing. When the media did, when this story broke, they were like, what? Nobody does that. You don't fucking shove a tube up somebody's ass, which is anal rape, and then pump liquid food up there? And they said it led to lesions and blisters and all types of problems, and they're like, yeah, because that's not a fucking thing. You're just anally raping somebody. It's a form of torture. They did mock burials. They said, you know, to people, hey, I'm going to rape and kill your family, all this stuff. So, number one, torture isn't debatable to begin with. But number two, I love how the conversation from torture apologists always props up only around waterboarding, as if that's all we did, and as if it wasn't systemic. She's like, well, it was done a handful of times, and there were people around who were saying, no. It was done a lot. Have you read the Senate Intelligence Report? It's very important that you read that if you actually want to pretend to have an educated opinion on this. And let's also remember, I alluded to this a little bit before, but the way that we got people to Guantanamo is not what you think it is. It's not like, you know, there's some special ops people out there in the field and they're like, ooh, I see an Al-Qaeda operative and he's got a fucking sign on his chest that's like, I'm Al-Qaeda, and we get him and then we bring him there and then we keep him there. No. The Bush administration cut a deal with the Pakistani government and the Afghani government and said, all right, well, 9/11 just happened here. You know, we're obviously, understandably, really upset about that. We want to get the people back who did it. Do us a favor and send us jihadists. Send us Al-Qaeda operatives who you know are Al-Qaeda operatives. And then, you know, we'll put them at Guantanamo Bay. So what did these governments do? They went and they rounded up people who were just protesters of their government, or, you know, who were their political enemies. Who trusts the Pakistani government and the Afghani government to be like, yes, I know these guys are Al-Qaeda. Do you really? So they just rounded up people who weren't Al-Qaeda, shipped them to Gitmo, and a lot of them are still sitting there today. We've gradually released some of the ones who are innocent, but there's still a lot of people there today, and some of them are innocent. So it's so sad that she's so immensely ignorant on it, and she manages to defend torture. Now, let me give you one more portion here, because this is really important. They say, quote, the Senate Intelligence Committee last year concluded that torture was not an effective way of getting information from prisoners. Simple as that. And also, remember, we got the intelligence to go into Iraq from torture. Why? Not because Iraq really had anything to do with 9/11, but because we were looking for that answer. So they tortured somebody until they said what the people doing the torture wanted to hear. That's usually the way torture works. So we got this bad intelligence, started a war over the bad intelligence, and then idiots like Carly Fiorina are like, yeah, we should do that some more. Who openly muses about violating international law and the Constitution and U.S. law? I mean, it's not, people act like, well, it's just torture. Yeah, that's fucking illegal, and it is for a reason. I mean, you want to talk about moral relativists? I've never seen a bigger moral relativist than this. Well, come on, when we do torture, I mean, we mean well. We're the good guys, by definition, so we're allowed to do it. But go ahead, ask Carly Fiorina, ask any of the Republicans. Really, what if Iran did the torture and openly mused about doing more torture? Would you say, well, I mean, look, they got to do what they got to do, right? They got to protect their nation. No, if anybody else does it who's not our ally, we go, oh, terrorist state. What an illegitimate state violating international law. Punish them. But when we do it, shh, you can't fucking criticize us. We're above the rules. Do you not understand that? Guys, torture says more about you than it does about the people you're torturing. Because what it shows is you have no moral code. You're not holding yourself to the same standard that you hold other people to. There's a term for that. It's a hypocrite.